How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the NFT Nation podcast, the most relatable and reliable NFT and crypto podcast in the nation. And in today's episode, I am blessed to be here today with Josh Gordon from the Unstoppable Domains podcast, as well as the Unstoppable Domains project team. Today's goal in this kind of episode is to learn all about what Unstoppable Domains has to offer, as well as learning about Josh in his journey throughout the crypto world. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest, Josh Gordon. What's up, Josh? How's it going?
Hey, Michael, I'm doing well today. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I love talking crypto, Web3, NFTs all the time. So it's just good to be able to chop it up with you and see what questions we can answer and dialogue we can have. I'm a big believer in education being the driver for adoption. And crypto is not easy. NFTs are confusing. And unfortunately, there's no 30-second elevator pitch to really answer a lot of the questions that people have around it. And so I think podcasts are just a great medium to dive into the meat of the tech and the culture and the innovation we're seeing right now. So happy to be on with you.
Yeah, awesome. It's great to have you, especially kind of your teacher motive in the Web3 space really helps. Especially, I love your podcast. It's taught me a lot, just especially not only the basics, but it's taught me a lot learning from your guests that you have on and kind of them talking about what they do and how they work inside the space. But to kind of start out this kind of interview, you could say is before you got into crypto in the Web3 space, like what did you do for a living before you got into all that? Like how did you start? Like, or kind of what did you do before, pretty much?
Yeah, I graduated college in 2016, and after that I got right into consulting. So I was doing tech consulting up in the Washington, D.C. area, and I really focused on emerging technologies. So I was focused on virtual and augmented reality for like the first 3 years of my career, and thinking through how we can create experiences for training and government agencies. So think through, like, if you're a fighter pilot, and how can you get 1,000 reps in the cockpit before ever stepping into a plane, and thinking through how we can do that in VR and whatnot. And so while I was doing some VR AR stuff, blockchain came on the scene in 2017, and I helped put together a blockchain strategy for the firm I was working at, and how the government can start thinking through this stuff. And what I noticed then was, if we're still early now, back in 2017, we were way early then. And the government really didn't have an appetite for blockchain, and the strategy work I was doing kind of got killed. But that really piqued my interest, and I started investing in crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum. I rode it all the way up in 2017, and I rode it all the way down, through the bear market. But that really got my interest. And from there on out, I continued my career in data science. So I became a data scientist, very technical and coding, and kind of did some projects around crypto still on the side to stay interested. And this whole time, though, I've always been a creative. So a story I like to tell a lot is one of my best friends, his name's MJ, he raps, and I made a lot of videos and did a lot of photography work. So I said, hey, man, let's team up here and let's try to create weekly music videos and see if we can get this rap thing off the ground. So we did 37 straight weeks of music videos. He wrote the song Monday and Tuesday, recorded it on Wednesday. We shot the video on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I posted it on Sunday. So it was a rapid fire for like a better part of a year. And we got this music thing off the ground a little bit locally. And that really got me just into the creative world. Just focusing on the artist experience. I learned a lot about how artists monetize and grow their communities. And then come 2021, I discovered the world of NFTs. It's something that had been on my peripherals for a long time, but wasn't an area that I had gone deep in. But then I could tell that story too, if you're interested. But once I got into NFTs, I basically just saw my worlds merge between tech and art and community. And I just knew I wanted to jump headfirst in. So even though I never thought I'd be a podcast host full time, I found a way to really merge a lot of my passions and interests. And and right now I'm loving it. So it was my foot in the door to Web3 and crypto, and I'm really approaching this role as podcast host as what is the value of getting to talk to some of the smartest people in the crypto space every week and learn from them. I'm getting the chance to build my network. I'm learning myself. Like, even though that I think these podcasts are educational for others and entertaining, I'm being educated at the same time. So I look at it as a chance to really advance how I think about these concepts and grow my network.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I think me and you have the exact same opinion on these kind of Web3 deep dives podcasts, where not only are you not only are you being entertained or learning from the episode, the host or the people on the podcast are learning from each other. And it's just like all around good, and everyone's kind of expanding and broadening their horizons just from kind of having a meeting or just talking about certain crypto topics, which is great to see.
100%.
But obviously you talked about kind of your background, working in production, especially for your friend who did rap videos and all that. Like, do you think, especially the production area of that and kind of the fast nature of it, do you think that's helped you in kind of like the business world, and as you've gone on, like that part of your life where you had to rush and like not only rush but have it be good as well?
Yeah.
Like, do you think that helped you?
Yeah,
Like,
what I would
throughout?
say here is that I didn't view the weekly schedule as rushing. Actually, I really viewed it more as consistency and showing up every week regardless of the circumstances, and not letting kind of external factors dictate what you do. So I made a commitment with my friend that we were going to put out a video and a song every week, and we just stuck to it. And that consistency and the persistence in there, I think, has been a great teacher for me. So much stuff in the business world, and especially content too, as it relates to community building and NFTs, is showing up on a consistent basis. And there's so much value in that. It it may be a little oversaid, like, the whole quantity versus quality thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you can, there was a really good, I saw some kind of, maybe it was a Twitter thread or it was a study recently. It was like a professor there was a pottery class, and the professor told half the class that their final grade was based on only one piece of pottery that they submitted. The other half of the class, their final grade was only based on completing 50 unique pieces of pottery. And then at the end of the semester, the professor looked at the half of the class that only had to produce one, and the half of the class that had to produce 50, and found that the class that the students that were producing 50 pieces of pottery over the semester, their final piece was better than the one piece submitted by the people who only had to do one over the course. So every time you show up, you iterate. I mean, iteration is like a word that I feel like is tattooed on my body. I approach it in so many areas of my life. I'm always iterating. I'm taking what I've done, then I'm doing it again and adding one step further of improvement. So with every music video I shot, it was a personal goal. Every single video, I have to learn one new editing technique. And that was on a week-to-week basis. So 30 weeks in, I've got 30 new techniques and tricks under my tool belt.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
I kind of think that I approach it with the podcast too. I mean, my podcast comes out every Wednesday. It's called the Unstoppable Podcast. And once I started full time, I started full time in January of 2022. And I had about a month where I got a lot of things locked in, like the designs, the process, the logistics, working with agencies and finding guests. And then the day we launched the first podcast, February 9th, I knew, all right, this is coming out every Wednesday, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so I think it really keeps you consistent, keeps you motivated. It makes sure you are following up on the actions that you need to do. So I really encourage, I really encourage people to find those kinds of habits in their daily life. This is maybe a little bit not NFT related, but I read a great book called Atomic Habits. It's a very popular one, a New York Times bestseller. I think it's the most highlighted book on the Kindle. but it's all about like habits and how the habits we have shape our identity. And so I approach a lot of things like that. What habits do I have, or am I trying to build, and how do those habits reflect the person I want to be? So in all aspects of my life, I want to be someone who shows up for others and people can count on. And so if that's making a music video, if that's putting out a podcast, or being someone that you can call when you need it, like that's the kind of person I'm trying to be.
That's awesome. I love that. Especially, I've only been doing the podcast for a few months, but I can tell each episode I create, I learn. I kind of look back on it. I'm like, wow, I could have done something different. I could have asked my guest this question. It would have really helped the conversation. Stuff like that. You kind of keep in your toolkit as you go along, and you kind of use those tools that you've gained throughout the journey and everything, and your content just continuously gets better. And like your example about you don't really want to say quantity over quality, but sometimes you have to have a large amount of quantity just to create quality, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
well said.
So obviously you worked for, or you were part of the Unstoppable podcast, and it's obviously a small part of a much larger kind of corporation, if that makes sense. But to get into the crypto side of what you do, what was your first experience with crypto?
Yeah. And I'll say, like, I do run the Unstoppable podcast. I host it, and I lead a lot of our content initiatives there. So just to start off at this high level, Unstoppable Domains, we are a Web3 company, a startup making NFT domains, and that has to do with your identity on the internet. And definitely happy to dive into that. But my first experience with crypto, and it's funny, like I was just looking at this the other day in Coinbase. I mean, it was in Coinbase, and it's just buying Bitcoin, buying ETH. The first Ethereum I ever bought, I bought an entire Ethereum for $125, and I had to scroll all the way down on my buy transactions on Coinbase because I was curious, and I was like, dang, 125, if only I knew. And so it started off just buying crypto, but I think the more interesting story is really around NFTs. So a good friend of mine from college started a music NFT company called Mint Songs, and I was at the beach over Thanksgiving break with my family, and I get a DM from him on Instagram, and he just said, "Hey, man, can you check out my pitch deck? And I know you have a lot of artist experience." So he knew that I was shooting all these music videos, that I was in touch with a lot of rappers in the DMV area, and wanted me to take a look at the plans he was putting forth. So I read this pitch deck, and it was all about how NFTs are going to change the way we consume content and media. And it pointed to so many examples in terms of how the collectible market is changing. I mean, you look at StockX and the way people buy and sell rare sneakers, and you look at the Pokemon card and baseball card market and how people buy and sell rare and rookie cards. And then he pointed to NBA Top Shot, which is an NFT platform for basically trading and buying and selling and collecting NBA basketball moments. And I hadn't heard of NBA Top Shot, but I knew one thing, and that is my friend Dwight is a smart guy. If Dwight's talking about something, and I don't know what it is, I need to learn about it. And so I basically just went straight to NBA Top Shot, started seeing what it was all about, got into their beta program. And I remember buying my first NFT. It was, I bought a pack, and I opened the pack, and I saw these 3 moments that popped up out of them. And it was a fun experience. It was a learning experience. And after getting my NBA Top Shot moments, I became absolutely hooked. And I got all my roommates I was living with at the time into it. We started buying and selling moments together. We started buying NFTs together, and I just basically never stopped. So it really all went down January 2021, and I started working at Unstoppable full time January 2022.
Wow, that's more of an interesting first experience with crypto. Obviously, your first time buying crypto is kind of basic. I feel like assume like a lot of people, his first experience just opening a Coinbase account, but that your journey in NFTs is actually pretty interesting. I like to hear that. So what was your friend's music
company? Yeah, it's called Mint Songs. So they're funded by Coinbase Ventures, which is an awesome like venture capital arm, and a couple other well-known players. So it's really, I credit everything in my NFT journey really back to that. So for Mint Songs, he ended up getting funding several months later after sending me that pitch deck. I gave him some feedback and whatnot, and then they launched, and I saw that, and I said, wow, Dwight's the only person that I really know who's building in this space. They're not just collecting, they're not just flipping NFTs. He's building and is hiring. And so I'm not a blockchain developer, and I basically just hit him up. I got on the phone and I said, hey man, I'm not a blockchain dev, but what can I do for you? And we talked and kind of talked about some content ideas, because he knew that was an area I had experience in. And so what I did is I went a step ahead, and I really encourage people to do, take some lessons learned from this. If you're looking to get in the Web3 spaces, he didn't just tell me that a podcast was interesting, and then we hung up. After he said, a podcast, maybe there's something there. I mean, this is an early stage startup, 3 to 4 employees. They're not just spending money left and right. And so what I did was I interviewed my friend who was the rapper that I told you about originally, that I made music videos with. And I pretended like I was the host of the Mint Songs podcast. And we were just talking about music and NFTs. And I put the interview together, I put the podcast together, and I put a short slide deck together on a presentation. And I said, this is what I can do for you every single week. And not only is this what I can do, here's an example of it. And he basically saw that and said, this is exactly what I'm looking for. When can you start? So I started doing a music NFT podcast originally. It's still, you can still search for it. It's called the GM Metaverse Podcast, and did about 5 episodes. And then Unstoppable Domains reached out to me. They were looking to hire a full-time host, and I had never expected that 5 weeks into my podcast journey, I was going to get an opportunity to do this full-time for a company. And it really caught me off guard. But it just goes to show, like, I don't know, when you have initiative in something, what it could turn into. And I jumped at the opportunity. I quit my data science job, and even though it was a good one, and I just knew where I wanted to spend my time and energy.
Yeah, awesome. You really truly know, especially in the creative space that you could say we are both a part of. You really never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to reach out. You never know what conversation might lead to new kind of perspectives on any type of work, or just like new projects. You never know. Like, every day is a new day. So
everyone in the crypto space that you want to talk to is basically one Twitter DM away. So being active on Twitter, creating some kind of content, having a perspective is massive.
Yeah. Twitter can obviously there is positives and negatives to Twitter, but I think especially for crypto, just like you said, Twitter is like the home for crypto. That's where everything's there for crypto. Everything you need to know.
Yeah.
So obviously, to continue, you have, our viewers won't be able to see it, but you have a custom Mutant Ape skateboard deck in your kind of office area. Would you say that's your current favorite NFT project, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, or what would be your current favorite NFT project?
It's hard for the Bored Ape Yacht Club not to be my favorite, because I kind of shared my come up story in NFTs, but where I stopped was it goes back to Dwight again. So we had been talking, and then he changed his Twitter profile picture to a Bored Ape, and I didn't know what that was. So just from kind of following him from afar, I figured out what it was. I went online. I started searching on OpenSea and seeing what they were selling for. And at the time, Bored Apes were only selling for like 0.2, 0.3 ETH. Today, they go for over 100. Wow. And so basically, without even doing much more research, I just bought one. I bought one for 0.4 ETH, and it was probably the best investment I ever made. I sold it way too early. I can be honest here. I sold it for 8.5 ETH, but I mean, that's a massive flip. And more important than the flip, though, is what I learned in the process. I felt the power of what a good NFT community is. I saw how people came together and started innovating, given the IP rights that they were allotted from their NFT. So basically, the Bored Ape Yacht Club was really the first NFT collection to give rights of the IP, the intellectual property of their associated ape and their NFT to the holder. So if maybe an example is, if you own Nike shoes, you can't just sell the Nike shoe derivative. You can't profit off of the brand. But when you own a Bored Ape NFT, that specific one, you can do whatever you want with it. You can make merch, you can make coffee, you can make a wine brand. And so people started coming together and getting really entrepreneurial. So even though I sold the ape, I got back in with my mutant, and that mutant has been awesome. It's given me access to events, airdrops, and it's now become one of the most respected collections in the space. So yeah, my mutant, oh man, it's tough. It's tough when NFTs are worth a substantial amount of like real life money, because
Yeah.
it really makes you ask, like, should I be holding this? Is this the responsible decision? Like, I'll be honest, I'm young. I'm still trying to get to like a place where I feel really financially secure. And I've had some awesome NFT trades, but you know, I told myself that I was holding this thing for life. We'll see what happens along the way. But right now it is my PFP, my profile picture, and probably my favorite NFT.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you talk about, you can tell yourself I'm holding this for life until kind of life happens, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, you can say you're doing something until maybe you wake up tomorrow and your mutant ape is worth double. Like,
Yeah.
how is your perspective going to change? Obviously, I respect your kind of hodl.
Something I say, I'm not hot. I don't hodl everything 100%. Like, I definitely, and this is to anyone who's listening that trades at all or is, thinking about how to approach NFTs, is when you get an asset like a Bored Ape or a mutant ape, this NFT project has been known for giving airdrops to the holders. So a mutant ape and a Bored Ape, those are the two membership tiers of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Now, when they came out with ApeCoin, they airdropped mutants and Bored Apes ApeCoin free. So I think apes got 8,000 ApeCoin, mutants got 2,000. So I was able to claim 2,000 coins for free just for holding the NFT. So personally, I did sell my coins, and I kind of look at that as hold the asset, sell the airdrops. So I sold my tokens, and then recently there was a land sale. It was called Other Side, and a metaverse land project that the Bored Ape Yacht Club has now come out with, and saw a ton of media attention. So I'm sure your listeners are somewhat aware of it, maybe. But I was able to claim a free land for my mutant, and I also sold that before they revealed the lands. So that's a chance for me to kind of take profits while still holding my core NFT, and I'm sure I'm going to be getting more airdrops from them in the future. So hopefully that's the good play in the long run.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I mean, or you can kind of think of it as kind of like a dividend from a stock. You're just like, okay, they have given me kind of some income that obviously you don't have to sell to make it instant profit. But you know what? I'll just cover my cost basis. I'll just make sure I'm kind of on even playing grounds and kind of living freely on that.
Yeah,
But
totally. A dividend is definitely how I describe it to my friends too.
Yeah. I'm just gonna do a little plug here. If any of the viewers out there are wondering about the new recent news and all the new kind of minting with, especially the land and all the new Bored Ape Yacht Club metaverse, which is called The Other Side, just like Josh Corn said. We do have an episode about a few episodes back where I kind of talked about the news with the Bored Ape Yacht Club and everything that's going on with the new Other Side land mint. So if anyone's interested, go check that out. But to continue on with the podcast, you obviously mentioned how you got started with the Unstoppable Domains podcast. How did you kind of learn more about Unstoppable Domains before just jumping in? Like, how did you know what NFT domains were, or did you kind of learn as you started working for them?
Yeah, so I had been somewhat familiar with NFT domains. I did have an ENS domain name, which is our main competitor in the NFT domain market. I wasn't as familiar with Unstoppable, but it really just took diving in. Honestly, I dove into the Unstoppable podcast and I listened to the episodes from the host prior to me, and I started DMing people. It was pretty cool. I DM'd a bunch of some investors. You might be familiar with Balaji. He is a very well-known voice in the crypto world. His Twitter is just Balaji S, and one of the big brain thinkers in this space. He was the first CTO at Coinbase, and he's an investor in Unstoppable Domains. So I shot him a Twitter DM. I asked him what his thoughts are. I knew it was a long shot, but he actually responded. I DM'd Chris Dixon, who's a big venture capital investor at Andreessen Horowitz, about Unstoppable. He responded as well. And then I DM'd Matthew Gould, who's the CEO of Unstoppable, and just asked some more questions that I had. And he got back to me too. So the power of just sending a DM really struck hard, and everyone shared their insights with me. But ultimately, something I think is really cool about NFT domains and made me want to work at Unstoppable versus just an NFT project is a lot of NFTs we see are kind of like art collections, or it's music, or it's a profile picture. But Unstoppable Domains is building something that's actual like crypto technology. It's something that we're going to use, and not just something we're buying and trading. It's with a Bored Ape, you buy it and you really hope that it goes up in value, right? But an Unstoppable Domain is something you use day in and day out. So let's talk more about NFT domains. Are you cool if I do that a little bit?
Yeah, no, go right ahead. That's just what I'm about to transition to. Go right ahead.
So right now, if you've ever sent crypto to anyone, you've probably sent it to a long hex address. So it's like 0xAB127321. It's like 27 alphanumeric characters long or something like that. And that's confusing. That is hard. That's a bad user experience. And there's safety issues too, because if you mess up one letter, one number in that address, your crypto is going to the wrong person, and there's no one to help you get it back, right? So with an Unstoppable Domain, you are giving a human readability to a crypto wallet address. So instead of sending to an alphanumeric address, you can send to josh.nft or michael.crypto. And the power in that is it simplifies the transactions for everybody. So if we believe that crypto is going to have global adoption one day, we need human readable names. So the kind of the mission there on providing the identity layer for Web3 and crypto globally really resonated with me. And I was really excited to see that it was something that was usable versus an NFT that's more just like a JPEG, right? So I like that a lot. And honestly, Unstoppable Domains is one of the strongest teams in the space. We're 160 people big for a crypto startup that's massive. We're global. We're in Asia, we're in Europe, we're in America, South America, and we're rapidly growing. So have a lot of really cool things on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. Obviously, you all have seen a lot of growth in the past year and kind of beyond that. But I think especially I think the Unstoppable Domains has over maybe like 200,000 followers on Twitter, I think when I last checked. So obviously there's a big community aspect to that as well, which is great to see that people actually have have faith, you could say, or believe in the future of NFT domains. Because I've looked into NFT domains for this kind of interview, kind of before we started and everything, and I can see the use case. Like the use case is very simple. It just makes sense. Like no one wants to. If you want to be able to communicate or send transactions with your friends or people you know, you want to be able to actually be able to read what it is.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to pay like just a random number digits. Like I don't want to have to consciously just go over every single letter because I'm scared I'm going to send $100 of crypto to the wrong place. It would just make sense if it was just a lot simpler. But to continue on with NFT domains, what would you compare like an NFT domain to a non-crypto user, if that makes sense?
So, the easiest example here is a traditional domain like google.com. So .com, indicates that it's a domain. Every one of us interacts with domains every single day long in the Web 2 kind of version of the internet. And so, but before things like google.com, facebook.com, what else is a website we go to every day? I don't know, like pick whatever.com you go to every day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Twitter.com. Go ahead.
twitter.com. So before that, the way that computers referenced those websites, it were IP addresses, and we still do. I mean, every .com, it has an IP address associated to it, but we didn't always have like that human readable side to it. So, 20 years ago, um, 20 years ago, google.com might have been 127.0.1.10. And eventually we put that human readable layer on top of it. So just like we converted IP addresses to easy to use domains, I think we're going to convert hex addresses to human readable names. And so that's really the easiest example. I mean, with a NFT domain, you can make a decentralized website with it as well. I would say it's really not our biggest use case or value prop, but that's an option. So you can make a website, you have the human readable aspect, and then as we kind of dive deeper into the idea of digital property and how digital property and assets are going to completely change in the next 5 to 10 years, NFT domains play a big part in that too.
Yeah, that's great to see. Especially, I believe that with the growth of the people in the crypto space, they're obviously the more and more people you have, kind of it's hard. You don't really want to call it this, but the dumber and dumber the technology has to be, so it's easier to understand. If that makes sense, like you don't want to really call the like people joining the crypto space the dumb or that they, but it has to be easy to understand. Like it has to be instant, if that makes sense. Like when you use your phone, like it's swiped, it tells you swipe to unlock. Like it's simple. It's nothing. It can't be complicated, and that's what NFT domains, I believe, have the ability to do, is make using crypto and like transaction with that very easy. But also you talked about the use case for them. How do you say, like, how do you attach a wallet to an NFT domain, or like is there a max amount of wallets that can be inside an NFT domain?
Yeah. So the association of your wallet address with your human readable name, like Josh.crypto, that would happen within the Unstoppable Domains website. So we have a really easy to use interface. You have a profile. You can attach your wallet addresses, and we actually allow you to attach up to like 275 different coins are supported, tokens. So you can attach your Bitcoin address, your Ethereum address, your Litecoin, your Matic, and for Polygon, your Solana. And so whatever, basically, like if you're using a token out there, unless it's a brand new DeFi token that maybe we just haven't integrated yet, chances are that you're going to be able to associate it with your Unstoppable NFT domain. And that's huge. It's one name for every wallet you have. And we call that indirection, being able to attach multiple crypto addresses across different networks and wallets to one NFT domain. That flexibility allows you to have one place for all the payments that you send and receive to be associated with. And I think that's powerful too. So you talk about the ease and making sure things are easy and intuitive. Having one name for all your wallets is a big answer on that.
Mm-hmm. Especially having one name for all your wallets. Me personally, I feel like I use 5 different wallet applications, and my crypto is everywhere. Or obviously, there's still gonna, like, if I have put everything into one NFT domain, it will still be in those crypto wallets. But just being able to interact with it all in one space would be perfect. And I think NFT domains have the probability, or have the possibility to do that, which would really help.
Yeah.
Kind of simplify my crypto life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But to continue on to the use case, how would you say NFT domains can interact with many decentralized applications and like kind of linking or signing certain kind of crypto applications?
Yeah, great question. So right now, when you go on the internet and you jump from Twitter to Facebook to Instagram to TikTok, your identities are fragmented, and the karma you've built up on those websites and social applications, the comments you've made, the posts you've shared, they're really not connected. And so once you start having one identity and you can log in with that across different websites, different decentralized applications, then you really start bringing everything together. So that hits on what I like to call persistent portable identity. So your NFT domain is going to be make your identity functional across every Web3 enabled app. And we have many different, Web2 usernames, and unfortunately, because there's no publicly accessible and secure database to do that identity lookup, they don't talk to each other. So to put that in easier terms, like Facebook has a database. They have your email and your password saved within it. When you log in, every time you enter those, it checks against the database. But the thing is, Twitter's database is private and doesn't talk to Facebook's database. So when you go to Twitter, even if your email and your password are the same, they don't know that because they don't want to share information together. The reason why they don't want to share information is because that really goes against their business model, which is all about tracking user data so they can monetize off of ads. Everything is ad based, and it all comes down to being able to have as much data on the user as possible. And so they don't want to give that up to anybody else, because that would just go against how they grow their business. So because of these domain names living on secure open source blockchains, now different applications can all reference this same ledger of information, like the Ethereum blockchain. So that ability to, not just log in with your email and instead log in with your domain is really powerful there, and it leads to a lot more things. So once you're logging in everywhere with your data, now all of a sudden it begs the question of, okay, how do I create this identity, this profile of myself, and take it with me, carry it with me across the internet? So I think we're going to see a lot of data associations to our domain names. Like right now it's basic. It's, let me associate my Twitter. Let me associate my profile picture and my NFT collection. And let me give my domain name has my name. But soon it's going to entail things like, I think an easy example is you could associate your address with your domain, or you could associate your, maybe you even associate your Amazon account, for example. And then when you go to a website and you log in with your domain name, they're going to ask you for your data, and they're going to say, hey, do we have permission to look at the data that you've connected to your identity? And so maybe that's your you put your shoe size, and you're shopping on like Nike.com, and they see your shoe size, and now they're going to start giving you shoes only in the size available for you, or your.
So it's kind of putting, sorry to cut you off, but it's kind of putting power back into the consumer.
Yeah, and the truth is, right now, your data, if you were to try to sell your data personally to like a company, it's worthless. I don't think people should be thinking, oh, I should go to a website and be able to sell my data for like $5 or $10. I mean, the data at the scale that these companies are collecting it from is like pennies per person, right? But it's when they aggregate it that it's valuable. But so I think that specifically the data you associate with your domain, you're not going to be necessarily selling the data, but you're going to be giving the data to the companies and the websites in exchange for certain promotions and rewards. So, and better user experiences. So it's all about the user experience and the benefits we can give them. So I said, like, you could, I mean, this is just totally off the top of my head. Like, you could connect your Amazon account. Well, if you do that, they can see that. Actually, you know what? Sorry, Michael. Scrap the Amazon account. I'm going to go with an easier one. Let's say you just bought a home, and you connected that home ownership or that mortgage loan data to your identity. Well, then you go to Wayfair.com, and the Wayfair sells furniture. Wayfair asks you to share some of your data you've associated with your profile. You say yes. They can now see that you just bought, you have a mortgage, and that's new. And they can also see that you've never shopped at Wayfair before because your identity has not been logged in their system. Now they can offer you a 10% off your first purchase for new furniture for your home. they could offer you like $10,000 to go towards $50,000 worth of new home furniture, whatever that may be. Companies are going to run the cost analysis for like these new promotions, but basically the cost of acquisition of a customer these days is a primary metric for every company, whether you're internet or retail. And instead of paying for advertisements, we're going to see people offering promotions instead. And the best way to offer a personalized promotion is by being able to really understand who the person that they're interacting with is. And the best way to do that isn't to data farm your internet experience, because how many times have you bought, I don't know, like LED lights on Amazon, and then after you buy that, you're still getting advertisements for LED lights from even though you've bought them already.
Yeah.
So the best way isn't to do these ad-based targeting, and instead it's to do promotion-based benefits that improve the user experience of everybody on the internet.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, especially on the business side. Why would you continue to fish in the same pool of people that maybe you've already caught, if that makes sense? Instead, why don't you just have a promotion where maybe you give a certain discount or whatever, and we'll be like, if a company can be like, if you allow us to use your previous internet data, we will give you 10% off if we were allowed to use it or something. It just makes more sense because you're not constantly, like, you're getting a new audience and you're able to do an even more unique, personal kind of, not really advertisement, but direct to consumer, if that makes sense, through the internet.
Yep.
But I mean, that's awesome. I think there's a lot of potential with not only the business side of NFT domains, but also it's kind of a win-win in both situations, because the users are fully like aware of what's going on because they have to allow it to happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
But also with someone's kind of personal NFT domain, what kind of digital kind of identity do they have to give? Like, do they have to, or is NFT domains gonna have like a verify of humanity or a KYC? Like, does that have to happen?
So NFT domains don't require KYC or verification of humanity, but it is something we're thinking about. So Unstoppable Domains rolled out a feature recently called Humanity Check, and it's 100% opt-in. You do not have to do it if you don't want to. Now, why would you want to verify your humanity? Well, bots and fake accounts are becoming more and more prevalent on the internet, especially social media platforms, especially with things like fake news and stuff like that going on. And so, Elon Musk just bought Twitter. One of the main reasons he bought Twitter was to stop the bots. He has said on Twitter publicly that he will verify all humans on the platform. Now, doing that reduces the negative experience we get when we post and we get interacted with bots. If you've ever tried to buy an NFT and it's sold out and minted out in minutes because the bots beat you to it, I mean, those are real problems. And it's kind of crazy thinking about it, but we're kind of at this inflection point with the internet where we need to start verifying that we're a real human on the internet. It's the first time in human history that a human has to prove they're a human. And that's because of these digital alternatives. So, I go back to this example where you're connecting with different applications through your NFT domain. You log in, you sign in with your domain, and they're going to ask you for humanity proof to proceed. And we're building that kind of technology. So that's one. And then there's KYC too, know your customer. And really KYC is more of an investment kind of, it's really something only investors have had to deal with in the past, but we're seeing a lot of regulations come out around crypto and NFTs, sometimes requiring KYC to happen. And so there's a lot of pushback because some people view it as not decentralized, but it's going to be a feature that gets built out. And again, it's going to be something that's opt-in, but while it's opt-in for Unstoppable, it may not be opt-in for the next NFT you want to buy or the website you want to engage with. So you'll have to make those decisions yourself.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in the crypto space want everything to be fully decentralized, which is technically kind of impossible because nothing can be like you can't be completely anonymous just because when everything's on the blockchain, everything can be looked at and tracked. But I think not maybe not KYC does KYC doesn't isn't something that has to happen, but especially with verifying humanity and proving that a human is a human is so important because it just makes everything just real. Like you don't have to worry about like if I post something on Twitter, like I'm not like I'll swipe up and instantly like or I'll refresh and then like five bots have like my post and commented like if you want a promotion, tag me or contact me here. It's like that's not a real person. Like
Yeah.
I just posted in 0.3 seconds later, they're already asking to promote. But I can see, especially maybe like KYC, playing more into the reputation factor of an NFT domain
Yeah.
or kind of your digital identity and being able to prove like kind of just like a just being able to prove that not only you're a real human but you are currently like in the NFT and Web3 space like you've been here for a while your internet reputation is good kind of like a Web3 credit score if
Yeah.
that makes sense. I think it's really important.
Totally. Yeah. And I'll say, just touching on the decentralization comment, um, a lot of people in crypto think everything should be decentralized or they're decentralization maxis. And it was pretty interesting. I learned this recently. How many times did decentralization get mentioned in the Satoshi Nakamoto Bitcoin white paper? Do you have any idea?
I've heard someone mention this. I don't think even once. Maybe like I maybe once or twice. I don't
Yeah,
think at all.
so it didn't get mentioned once. Zero times was the word decentralization used, and that's because Bitcoin was originally created to be a secure asset that could not be controlled by. It was really the purpose was security, and not oh my god, I always have trouble saying this word, anonymity, or the focus is security and not being.
Anonymity. That's
Yeah,
such a hard word.
yeah, I feel like Finding Nemo would have struggled with this too. So, you know what I'm saying. So it's about security. It's not about being anonymous, and but more so provable. Like you are who you say you are. So, yeah, we'll see how the decentralization and the anonymous thing plays out. But yeah, I think KYC's coming to a lot of folks, whether they want it or not, because regulations are coming and they're going to have to adapt to it.
Yeah, I think especially I view KYC the same as I view like government regulation because yes, it is like making crypto more decentralized with more regulation as well as KYC. But the thing is, you kind of have to realize that there has to be some type of protection in like the crypto community where obviously the government can make a bad regulation and hurt the community but as long like it would and especially in my opinion you might disagree but I think there needs to be a kind of big brother aspect maybe not fully in the not fully controlling but I feel like there needs to be something especially like I did a news story a few days ago about how the SEC is hiring more people to pretty much hunt down crypto scams and people that are doing rug pulls. Like, I think that's really important to help the community thrive and grow and be looked at as something more serious than just like a Ponzi scheme, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. And you were even talking about reputation earlier too. Like the when everything you post and do online can be tracked back to one identity. And the reason that can't happen now again is because of that the data that all of our information sits on right now is in siloed databases controlled by hundreds of different companies. Every company you interact with has their own database. And so none of that information is connected. And so by now flipping this on its script and by having one identity associated with all your internet actions, you can start building this reputation. Are you a good contributor to the internet? Do you share false information? This kind of stuff is going to be linked back to who you are and is going to really benefit the people who are engaging in the internet in a positive way. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the crypto space, especially with stuff like rug pull scams or fake ICOs, they're really created by the same kind of group of people that constantly like do it again, make a new account, do it again, and kind of build up there and just make a fake reputation over and over again. But if it's something that can be tracked and their reputation is online, where this person has created this many accounts and these accounts have been known to be the leaders of a rug pull, then people will be like, then they won't be able to do that because their kind of criminal record, you could say, quote unquote, criminal record is public on the block. Like it really would help just make the kind of world safer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And you obviously have worked on the podcast for multiple months, and you've seen, I mentioned earlier how you've seen massive growth, and like I just want to, I'm kind of venturing off the whole NFT domains because we've talked about it for a while, and hopefully all the viewers at home have got a full grasp of what NFTs have to offer. But how was the transition of becoming a podcast host? Like obviously you were a podcast host before, but how was it moving to an even bigger podcast that had a lot more like viewers? Like how was that?
You know, I think it's been fun. It's given me a platform to speak from, to share my takes and to share other people's takes. So I really try to approach it. I want to bring a diverse guest list to the table, people from entrepreneurs, creators and artists, investors and venture capitalists. I want to make sure that we're getting men and women involved and giving like women more of a seat at the Web3 table. So it's been a great learning experience. And ultimately, I just enjoy getting the chance to engage with the community. So I'm super active on Twitter. Anyone listening, you can find me at JustWavyJ on Twitter. That's JustWavyJ. And it's just been fun. People slide in my DMs, have conversations. I make YouTube videos, and I like see all the comments there. But more than anything, I would say I love just working with people who are into crypto just as much as I am. So getting to talk to them in our company Slack channel, at our company offsites, that's been fun too. So there's been a lot of benefits around just who I talk to this stuff about. Previously was really limited to the people I live with or my girlfriend who's tired of hearing me talk about NFTs, and now that group I get to engage with is so much larger. So that's been nice. But from a content perspective, I'll also say like content can be difficult because what you put out there is subject for
constant criticism.
Yeah, constant criticism from people, and sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you have a bad take, and then there's also the consistency thing we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. There's a little bit of a pressure to always show up online. Like, what happens if I take a couple days off Twitter? Being on social media can be very tiring, but right now I'm energized by it, and definitely I'm gonna be keeping this up. So a big question I asked myself when taking the job is, like, what's the value of being the face of a major crypto brand? Eventually, hopefully $1 billion crypto brand. And so I think about that. There's a lot of benefits that come from the network and the the people the doors that you get to open up with when that happens. So everything, I can't complain right now, man. It's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Especially, I'm happy to hear that you're expecting more growth in the future, as when I am with this podcast. We're all just here to grow. And not only are we growing, but we're growing in the right way, where we're not just spewing information, we're growing through kind of teaching and educating, if that makes sense, which I think is very important to onset or just massive growth potential of crypto and Web3 by getting more people to, maybe they don't even have to invest in crypto, but if they're able to learn about it and have a basic understanding, that goes a long way, especially with the future of crypto. Because it's weird to say constantly, but we are still early just for everything.
Yeah.
It's weird to say that we're always early, but we like the internet always felt like it was early in 1990s and so forth. So it's just
No,
it's
we're definitely early, and you know it is there's this like education focus, and hopefully it's fun too. Like hopefully when you're learning about this, it's fun. I kind of have a little bit of a saying is I want to I want to be the cool friend that just teaches you interesting shit. Like everyone should have that friend who's just into stuff before it's cool, or
mhm.
researching things, tinkering with things. And how many times I've just explained, you know, NFTs to my friends or crypto to my friends. Like people, I know that people are interested in that, but not everyone has that person they can just hit up and say, "Yo, what's up with this? Tell me more
Yeah.
about this mint." And so that's kind of a goal of the podcast and the YouTube and the TikTok and all that kind of stuff too, is just being that person for someone when we don't always have it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'll talk to my friends about this stuff. And they'll be like, "Yeah, Michael, how's that Bitcoin podcast going?" I'm like, "Okay, let me just take a step back. It's not just Bitcoin. Let me explain everything that's going on. There's a lot more to it."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great to see that it's kind of fun being the person that's willing to explain, and maybe people that listen to this podcast or even this episode, maybe both of our podcasts, will be able to learn something. Like my goal of each episode is to give the viewer something they could tell their friends about, and I think if you do that, then the growth prospects are enormous.
Yeah, totally.
To kind of move on, we'll kind of move to some more fun questions, kind of similar to your podcast Web 123 segment at the end, where you kind of just ask the guests a little bit of fun questions that really aren't exactly on topic. But for to start, what would you say is your favorite crypto currently, or maybe even blockchain?
From like a token perspective,
Yes,
um,
yes.
hmm, my favorite's Ethereum still. I think that Ethereum is proving to be where the people are developing, what developers are building. It's where a lot of the OG NFT collections are. So I do think that the gas and the kind of the transaction fee element and the transaction speed are areas that need improvement. So I got my eyes on Solana,
Hmm.
and I've got my a Phantom wallet. I'm experimenting, but yeah, top one's definitely Ethereum, and I've even been playing around with a lot of layer twos on Ethereum, like Optimism and Arbitrum and the
Yeah.
Hot Bridge. So experimenting, there's so much to experiment on there.
Yeah, you talk about being how you own your own board mute or mutant ape, but how do you what's your opinion on what happened during the other side land mint, where pretty much gas fees were almost thousands of dollars just to mint an NFT? What was your kind of experience with that?
Yeah, I minted 4 pieces of land, so from 2 wallets, and I paid gas fees twice, and they were a lot. Like I paid about 4 ETH in gas, and I understand that's not something everyone can do. That's very cost prohibitive way of engaging with the NFT community. But I didn't love that there was a gas war. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach a highly anticipated mint. From a pure kind of free market capitalism perspective, it was fair in the sense that if you wanted to pay gas fees, you could pay it. Like it literally went to the highest bidder. Is that the best way to get new entrants in the NFT world? No. Um, so could there have maybe been like a raffle instead? Sure, but people would have still complained about that not being fair, because some people who have been longtime NFT holders would have missed out, right? Simply by the nature of not winning the raffle. So yeah, the gas fees were crazy. Hope Yuga Labs did refund everyone who had their transaction fail, so that was a good move. I think their response could have been a little bit more empathetic. So I think
Hmm.
there's room for improvement there. But ultimately, I'm not upset about the gas. I did, like I mentioned earlier, I did sell pre-reveal, so I had a profitable trade. I think if you didn't get anything rare on your land and you are still holding, you'd be at a slight loss. But history so far has showed us never to fade Yuga Labs, because so far everything they've dropped has gone up in value.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yuga Labs is really kind of not I don't want to call them a monopoly, but they're really just a big player in the game where if Yuga Labs is doing something, people turn their heads, and it's important to pay attention.
Yep.
To kind of continue on, obviously you talk about how you're looking in Solana as well. Would you call yourself a more of a fan of proof of stake or proof of work?
I don't even know if that's something I have too strong of an opinion on, but I would guess I would say proof of stake just from the environmental perspective, so we can
Yeah.
move to that and kind of put that argument to rest. So I'd say proof of stake.
Yeah, because really the only proof of work thing or kind of blockchain that's going to stay around for long is Bitcoin. I mean, everything else, obviously Ethereum is still proof of work, but we've seen major delays in the Ethereum proof of stake kind of Ethereum 2.0 kind of aspect.
Yeah.
But I mean, once it fully the sharding happens, whether or not that's this year or the early next year, it's going to change the game. Like proof of work will be a thing in the past.
Totally. Yeah.
But also, if you can make something, you could have something that was completely decentralized and completely open sourced, what would it be and why?
Sorry. So you're saying if there's one thing I can open source, what would it be and why?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's a tough one. If there was one thing I could open source, I gotta say that this is just because I've been thinking about this a lot recently with the Twitter news, but I think it's the Twitter. It would be Twitter, because that is a global area for public discourse. And right now, the algorithm that controls Twitter, what people see, how people are censored, how people are verified, is completely in control of the hands of a company. And so by open sourcing the communication, the social layer, I think we can get just more trust in the information we're seeing online. So the Twitter is the big one that pops out of me, but that's also just been the one that's been most discussed recently.
Yeah. About a week ago, I made a video, an episode all about Elon bought Twitter. What does that mean for crypto? What does that mean for the future of crypto? Kind of just like a pure speculation / news episode. And doing the research, all I realized was wow, he bought the town square. He bought the media. He technically owns where the majority of people my age and a little bit older, and especially you, get all of our information. If it made me realize how much power someone like Elon Musk now has. And obviously I believe that it's good for Twitter all in all, because I think by making it private, they don't have to kind of lean into the I don't want to get into any politics, but they're able to kind of just have the truth out there. They don't have to play to a certain side, if that makes sense. They're able to just be Twitter, which is good to see. But
totally.
Yeah, an open source social media where a bunch of different people are able to kind of tweak it to make it perfect, it would be very, very nice. But one last question, not related to crypto or anything at all. If you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh man, one superpower. Another thing I haven't thought about. I think that if I had one superpower, it would be, oh man, I feel like it's not. I feel like it's not some. I don't know if I necessarily want to fly. I think I want to. Talking about Elon Musk more, I wish that I could it's got to be like a superpower to expand my brain capacity, the way that Elon context switches between thinking about rocket design to solar energy
And
to
shit posting on Twitter.
to shit posting on Twitter. I actually don't, I legitimately don't think I could do that. I mean, if I was smart enough, I don't think I could have the energy to go from thing to thing to thing. That is a tiring task that most of us really have no experience in. And so I would say it would be to increase my ability to maintain a high level of intellectual energy between very intensive tasks. If there's a name for, I guess that should be called, I want to go genius mode. So I think I'm smart, but I'm not Elon. So that's my superpower.
That's a unique one. I like that. A lot of people would go basic with just, I like to fly. Wouldn't have to go in the car anymore. But yeah, I like that. I like that's unique. But I just want to thank you again for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate kind of you coming on and spreading your information, as well as explain to the viewers at home what NFT domains are, and especially what the future of NFT domains are. And if any of the viewers at home would like to continue on and follow you with what you do, how can they kind of or find out where you, like, what are your socials and where can they find you?
The best way to find me is at Twitter. My handle is justwavej, and you can find me. I just changed my NFT domain name today to 0xjosh. That's a little bit of a Ethereum shout out. So yeah, justwavej on Twitter, and then listen to my podcast, The Unstoppable Podcast, on all your favorite streaming platforms and YouTube. And then when it comes to this episode, I just really appreciate you bringing me on, Michael. Keep fighting the good fight, connecting with people around crypto, and I wish you the best with your podcast too.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And obviously, for our viewers at home, if you want to continue following this podcast, feel free to give us 5 stars on Spotify. That really helps Spotify know that even though we are small podcasts, people still love listening to it. And give us a follow on our social medias as well. It is at NFT_nation_podcast on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. It's easy to find. It's all the same. And yeah, guys, hopefully you learned something today, and we'll see you all later.